What's up everyone, I'm Poké Trainer Nick, and in this video we're going to be opening up a CGC shipment. So this isn't a Pokemon card shipment, this is a comic book shipment. So if you recall, this isn't the first comic book shipment that we've opened on the channel. An earlier video, both Marie and I opened up our first ever CGC return. So this was a comic book return, not a Pokemon card return. We opened up 5 comic books from CGC. These were all Pokemon comic books, they were vintage. Now that video wasn't as successful as we had hoped. So the grades we were very satisfied with, but the comics, the slabs were actually broken in that shipment. So this is a second shipment. This isn't a reholder of the previous slabs. This is the second shipment that I was waiting on. This is actually going to be 4 different comic books from CGC. They are all Pokemon, and I am hoping not only for a good grade on those, but also some slabs that aren't broken. So we're going to see what we end up with. Before I start cracking open these slabs, I want to say, go ahead and hit that like button on this video, subscribe to the channel, drop me a comment. I'd love to hear from you. But in the meantime, let's go ahead and crack open that box. So if you're new to the CGC process, so this is a comic book shipment. I'm sure they probably don't get a lot of Pokemon comics, but it comes in a massive box. They are actually quite heavy. So this is 4 comic books. They're bubble wrapped. It's much heavier than you might expect. All right, so something that I learned when it comes to these CGC comics, I don't think it applies for the trading cards, we'll see that in a future video, is that the grades are on both sides of the slab. So I'm gonna do my best to do like a reveal without exposing the grades. I don't know what these graded. I'm not even quite sure what the comics are, I just know that there's 4 of them. But let's go ahead and start sliding them open. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna slide from the top. Yeah, so you can see that we already exposed one of the grades, but let's go ahead and get right into it, I guess. So the first one, so this is Electric Tale of Pikachu. So this is a comic, it actually got a decent grade. From what I understand, I don't think that there's any comic books that have ever graded a 10 for any particular comic. I'm talking about Marvel Comics, DC Comics, etc. Because you know what? They have to grade every single page of these books, including the cover, and it's just something that they don't grade perfect. So 8 is actually not bad. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull it out of the wrapper, and we're going to give it an inspection for quality control. Hopefully that there's no damage. I'm just giving it a glance over. It actually looks really good. I'm going to flip it over. So this is the back side of the slab. You can see that the grade is also there, just like the 8 that we saw on the front. So I'm giving it a look. I'm giving it a feel. So on the previous shipment, we actually saw that there was a chip at the bottom of some of them, or the top. Half the side was chopped off. All kinds of different problems. It moved around, but this one actually looks good. So this is Electric Tale of Pikachu. So just some backstory here. These are not from my childhood. My childhood basically consisted of the games, the cards, and the show. I actually picked up these on eBay recently. I figured, you know what, that's a really cool item to own. They were pretty cheap at the time. So I figured, you know what, I'm in. Let's get some comics. They're going to look great in the collection. So this is part 4. I believe this is a 1 out of 4, or this is a 4-part comic book. So that's one. This actually looks really good. I'm just looking around in it, making sure that there's no kind of problems, and that looks good. So let's go ahead and look at the next one. So this is part 3. Again, this is the Electric Tale of Pikachu. Okay, so this has got an 8.5, which is actually pretty good. So 8.5, I'm going to pull it out of the wrapper. We're going to give it an inspection here. It's got some great art on it. It's not a first print because from what I understand, I'm not a pro comic book collector. But if this was a first print, there would be a barcode here rather than a white square. And even then, this comic, I don't think it was originally in English. I think it was in Japanese to start with. So there's a whole set of comic book, I guess, collectibles when it comes to Pokemon as well. So I'm looking at this. We have a nice Brock and Misty with her Magikarp and Onix. This is number 3. It got an 8.5, which is a great grade. I'm going to flip it over, see what we end up with here. And I'm actually going to move these out of the way so that way they're not distracting. But we have the 8.5 on the back there. I'm giving it an inspection, and everything looks good. I think this was a good batch compared to our other shipment. You can see that we have a Dragon Ball Z, which is about the same time frame as Pokemon. You have to remember that these are from 1999, so they're not recent comics. We have Gundam, which was very popular back then. And honestly, I know that the camera's not going to do it justice here, but let's go ahead and switch over to this view. This is the size of the slab. So it's quite large. It feels sturdy. It's fantastic in my opinion. This is a fantastic collectible item. So this is part 3. Let's go ahead and move on to the next one. So the next one is, of course, going to be part 2. And the grade is an 8. So these are grading, in my opinion, very well, especially compared to the previous video, where even the comics that, ignoring the fact that the cases were broken, they didn't grade very high in comparison. But I encourage you to watch that previous video so that way you get an idea of the experience that we had opening that first batch of books. So let's go ahead and remove the plastic cover. So this is part 2 of the Electric Tale of Pikachu. Something interesting to note too, and again, I'm not a pro comic book collector. I have a few Marvel comics. These are in black and white, so they're not in color like a lot of modern comics. I don't know if that was a vintage thing or just a Pokemon thing, but it's kind of, it had the material of, say, like an old TV guide or a newspaper. It didn't have that texture that modern comic books have. But here's an 8. So it looks good, just giving it that kind of feel over here to see if there's any kind of damage. I really don't think there is. Nothing that I can see at first glance. We have another Dragon Ball Z backing to this particular book, which is cool. I was not a fan of Dragon Ball Z. I think it was mostly because I didn't have that channel growing up on TV. But Pokemon was where it was at. So this is Ash, this is his Pikachu, or I think, in theory, this is Red and his Pikachu, because this is based off of the Japanese comic book, and they tend to go red and blue rather than Ash. And I think it's Satoshi is the Japanese name for Ash. But this is really, really cool. So this is an 8. So let's go ahead and look at that final copy here. So the final one that we received is part 1 of 4. So again, this is an 8 as well. So very nice. Definitely not 10. I wasn't expecting 10. I would have been lucky even to have gotten a 7 on these, I thought. But an 8, I will take it. So let's go ahead and pull it out of the plastic sleeve here. So once again, it looks freaking awesome right here. So this is Ash and his Pikachu, or Red and his Pikachu. So this is an English comic. It was official Nintendo licensed product. I think modern stuff might say it's licensed by the Pokemon Company. But this is the real deal. This is vintage. It has the same age as the original base set Pokemon cards. So this is really cool stuff. So we have the 8 on the back. It was a 1999 vintage comic. It says the 9th printing. I assume that's accurate. I assume CGC knows what they're doing, which is fine. I don't care if it's the 9th, the 1st. It's still a really awesome item to have. So this is 4 different comic book slabs, all for the Electric Tale of Pikachu for Pokemon. So little details on the whole CGC comic stuff if you want to get your stuff graded. So I actually sent these in. I'm looking at the website here on my computer. They were actually received on February 2nd. So today is April 13th. I don't know when this video is going to publish, but today's April 13th. So about, what are we looking at? 3 months of grading time. So it took about 3 months. I paid $18 per comic. So 4 times 18 here. It took about 3 months. Not bad. This is a piece of history, and I absolutely think it was worth paying for this. Even though that they didn't hold a significant part in my childhood, these particular comics, I think part of my Pokemon collection, it's not going to be complete without them. So if you're interested in getting your comic books graded with CGC, this was a good batch. None of them were broken. We got good grades. I definitely recommend that you look at that previous video. I don't know how common it is for these slabs to break in the shipment process. If you're looking for these Pokemon comics, again, I found them on eBay. I think for this lot of 4, I think it came in a pack. I think I paid like $10, so it wasn't even that expensive. It may be more expensive in the future, but you never know. So it would mean a lot to me if you hit that like button on the video, subscribe to the channel like I said earlier, drop me a comment. I'm also Poke Trainer Nick on Instagram, and if you want to find out all of my other social media handles, just go ahead and visit the Poketrainer Nick website. So that's poketrainernick.com. Stay tuned, because that shipment that I sent back to CGC, as soon as I receive it back, I will be doing a kind of revisit video or a remaster video, however you want to call it, to see what those comic books look like repaired. I have another shipment coming soon of actual Pokemon cards, so this is going to be a big shipment. I've been waiting for almost 6 months, it feels like, for these cards to come back. So that's going to be a very exciting video. Until next time, hope everyone has a great rest of your day.